Hi, my name's Steve Parker and I'm one of the education officers working for Essex Fire and Rescue Service and Essex Police. And over the next month we've got a couple of celebrations that we all like to get involved with. The first of those, as you'll know, is Halloween on October the 31st, and then a week later we have Bonfire Night. Unfortunately, during this period, we do get a lot of injuries. For the year 2018-19, we had nearly 2,000 cases of people being injured by fireworks. A third of those were under the age of 18. And we all know that the burns units in Essex get particularly busy around this time with life-changing injuries that young people befall because of their messing around or playing with fireworks. Also, from a police perspective, we do get a lot of calls around antisocial behaviour over the Halloween period. So what I'm going to be talking to you about today is about understanding some of the risks to keep yourself safe, and also to make sure that the general community are not getting pestered by people due to antisocial behaviour. Now, a lot of you are going to want to wear fancy dress when you go to parties over the Halloween period. And most of the fancy dress you buy is fairly cheap. You can get it from supermarkets between 10 and 20 pounds. The problem we have with these fancy dress outfits is if you read the label, a lot of them will say, warning, keep away from fire. And that is because they are not deemed to be clothing, the same as the clothing you would wear to school, but they are deemed to be toys. And because of that, if you go near a naked flame with them, be that a pumpkin or a bonfire, then there's a chance that they can catch fire. And we do every year, unfortunately, get the case where some children get caught by those flames when they're wearing this flammable material. So we're going to show you a film now about Claudia Winkleman and about what happened to her daughter when that fancy dress outfit she bought for her caught fire.
It was screaming. Everyone was screaming. She was screaming. All the kids there were screaming. It feels like she was on fire for hours, but the surgeon said that definitely wasn't the case, and it was probably just seconds. But she went up, is the only way I know how to describe it. It was not like fire I had seen before. So we were manically, me and this other lovely dad called Jamie, were just patting and patting and patting her, but it kept, I mean, it was like in front of our eyes. It was like those horrific birthday candles that you blow out and then they come back. We couldn't put her out.
Matilda suffered massive injuries and has had many operations, but Claudia now realises she is far from alone. Children's nightwear has to meet strict standards of fire resistance. Costumes, less so. They're treated as toys when it comes to fire safety. The surgeon who treated Matilda wants that changed.
I am in no doubt that legislation should be put in place to actually make sure that these fancy dresses are actually taken to the same extreme that night clothing is.
She's running and jumping and skipping about, but I think any parent, and goodness knows people go through so much worse, it makes you an anxious person. It was definitely life-changing for me. I can't remember life before it. I wish I had been dressed as the witch, is mainly all I wish that had happened to me.
So that is a horrific story, what happened to Claudia Winkleman's daughter there, and it's just a really sobering thing to remember if you're wearing that fancy dress. So if you do see anyone that catches fire, or you catch fire yourself, it's really important to stop, drop and roll. And stop means that you're going to not run around because that's going to fan the fire, it's going to give more oxygen to that fire. We're going to drop to the floor, that's going to protect our face, and then we're going to roll over, and that's going to try and put the flames out. As you saw in the film there, they were using their coats, etc., to try and dampen those flames down, and that's a good idea as well, just to try and take the oxygen away from the fire. But ideally, we don't want to put ourselves in that situation, and we'd much rather that you stay away from those flames with your fancy dress costumes on. Now, as we go into Halloween, if any of you are going to go out trick-or-treating, and we do have to recognise that this year is a particularly difficult year due to the COVID restrictions. So please, if you're going to have a party or you're going out trick-or-treating with your friends, please have a look at the government website to see what the current regulations are for your area. They are changing regularly. There's no point in me talking to you about what's relevant today while I'm making this film. So just check to see how many people are allowed together, if you've got to wear face masks, what the social distancing are. If you are going to go out trick-or-treating, a few things to remember. First thing is, when I was at school, people didn't celebrate Halloween. We didn't have anyone celebrating Halloween at all. So we moved on a few generations, and a lot of you have grown up trick-or-treating since you was in primary school. So if you're going to go out, make sure you're well lit, so that you've got a torch or something with you if you're going to be crossing roads and you're going to be going out with a group of people. If you're going out with your mates, make sure you let your adults know what time you're going to be home. And if you're older than that, you're going to go to parties and stuff, again, make sure you know what the restrictions are available for the number of people allowed to meet at those parties. We have been giving, from Essex Police perspective, some stickers out this year, just asking if people don't want people knocking on their doors or causing a lot of noise around their house, to put a sticker in their window. And that's just going to let you know that those people may be disabled, they may be elderly, and they do get a bit scared from the noise. So we're going to show you a quick film about what it might feel like if you were outside trick-or-treating and you could hear some noise in your house. And I just let you think, if you're perhaps at home with your younger brothers or sisters and your adults have popped out, they say, can you just look after your kids for an hour while we go out, look after your brothers and sisters, and imagine hearing these noises outside your house, how it would make you feel. So can you imagine if that was you at home? So it is very important to remember that antisocial behaviour calls do go up over the Halloween period. So if you are going to go out with your friends, please, if you cause anyone harassment, alarm or distress, then there is a chance that you could be arrested or fined for causing that. So, you know, it is called trick or treat, but I'd much rather that you know, you take the treats, and let's perhaps cut down on the tricks this year, because the police are particularly busy. Okay, thank you for that. Moving on then to the following week, we have got firework night on the 5th of November, and most of the injuries that we get from secondary school pupils are because of them playing with fireworks. Now, as I said, we always like you to go to an organised firework display. Again this year, that's going to be difficult with the COVID restrictions, and at this present time when we're filming this, we don't even know whether there's going to be firework parties available, but they are always the safest place to go, because it's organised, they've done risk assessments, you can have a bonfire, something to eat, you can see a lot of fireworks, again perfectly safe. If your adults are going to have fireworks at home, and you're going to perhaps go out with them to choose some fireworks, Dad will go into the shop, and what he'll do, one of your adults will go in there and they'll see these massive, great big fireworks, and they get all excited, don't they? Your parents, oh, look at the size of this rocket, let's get one of these. And those big fireworks are really designed to be let off at organised firework displays. We don't really want those let off in your garden, because that's going to cause some problems if they go through someone's window, or if the firework malfunctions. So what we're really looking for is fireworks which are for garden use. And if your adults, you go out with your adults to buy some fireworks, try and go to a recommended fireworks seller that's been selling fireworks all year round. So there's a lot of big companies that do that, and we're going to look out for the CE mark to make sure that those fireworks are meet all the current regulations. And you're going to probably come back with a box of fireworks that looks a little bit like this. Okay, and there's various fireworks in here, and inside the box will be some information about the firework code and about how we need to follow the firework code. You need to be 18 years old or older to buy fireworks, okay? And there's certain fireworks now which are illegal in this country, including things like bangers and jumping jacks, just because of the amount of injuries that they've caused over the years. So if we were going to buy a proper box, a marked up box, and these are from www.fireworkcrazy.com in Chelmsford, so thanks for supplying those for this particular film. If you go to one of those recognised dealers, then they will be able to sell you a nice box of marked fireworks. Now, each firework will have on it the details of how that firework needs to be set off. And again, please make sure that your garden is big enough because it is illegal to set fireworks off in a public place. So again, we get a lot of problems with young people during the firework period, perhaps taking a firework out of the packet, sticking it in their pocket to go over the park. Again, there's a risk there that can catch fire. They often don't read the instructions, they often throw the fireworks at each other, and that causes some quite horrific injuries. Let's hope that no one ends up in any of the burns units or anything over the bonfire and Halloween period. One of the problems that we have though is that we need to get across in this internet age some of the problems that people can have if they do get burnt or they do get involved in an accident with a firework. So what we're going to see next is we're going to see from a surgeon's point of view, from the burns unit point of view, some of the problems that young people do have when they have been involved in a fire. Now, some of the scenes are quite upsetting. There are some serious burns being shown there, so please don't feel you need to watch it. But it does get across graphically some of the problems that can happen if some people play around with fireworks or with bonfires.
We can take that off mechanically. One of them is with a water scalpel and the other one is with a metal scalpel. And the metal scalpel works just like a kebab knife, really. And it saws through the dead tissue and lifts it off. The water scalpel works in a similar way, only it's like a patio cleaner on a very, very small scale and takes the top layer of skin off.
The general procedures in the first few months of a severe burn victim would be sort of everything, all activities of daily living, such as eating. They would need to be fed. It's quite demoralising really for a teenager to be fed. They don't like it. They're in immense pain all the time, probably have morphine drips going all the time. The pain is just unimaginable. A big burn victim is also very prone to infection, and when they do get an infection they can become very poorly easily and can quite easily end up back on intensive care.
If you look at it from a broken bone, say, point of view, where a break could be healed within a few months with no consequences and probably no memory of the bone being broken. But with a burn, it can take months, years to fix, and sometimes you'll never get over that, and it could be that the psychological effects could last you for the rest of your life. Pranks like, you know, jumping over a bonfire or throwing fireworks and stuff like that, those things can take seconds to happen, like a millisecond to go wrong, and then years and years down the line so many more people are involved with it. Yeah, we see many severe burns and some quite horrific large burns. When there weren't organised firework parties and such like, we used to get a lot more of these injuries in. We don't get as many since there's been organised firework parties, but when people have unorganised ones and set bonfires themselves or let fireworks off themselves, we see a massive increase in them coming to us.
So if you're thinking about having a bonfire at home this year, again, please keep an eye on your parents for us. Most gardens are really, I'm going to be honest with you, are too small. You do need a really big space to have a bonfire, because what you don't want to do is have overhanging trees, bushes, sheds, fences, play equipment anywhere near the fire, because you get conducted heat come away from that fire and it's quite easy to set other parts of your garden on fire. Again, if you're having a bonfire, please get the hose laid out, from plugged in, working from the tap. I went to lots of fires during my fire service career where we turn up, the shed would be on fire, and I'd say, well, where's your hose? And they say, oh, it's in the shed. So get it set up beforehand. If you haven't got access to a hose, a few buckets of water there, and if it does get out of control, your adults can put a little bit of water on there just to calm it down. Again, with your bonfires, please don't only use wood and cardboard, etc. for making your fires. We don't want furniture on there. We don't want any sort of canisters, cans or rubbish, because again, that's an explosion risk and that can cause a problem in the gardens. Any problems on the night, please phone 999 as soon as you can. Ask for the fire service. Don't leave it too late till you've tried to deal with it yourself. The earlier we get the call, then the easier it's going to be for us to put the fire out. Fire injuries that we get caused on firework night are caused by rockets. Some of those are caused by using inappropriate things for putting rockets in. So we get a lot of problems with people putting them in things like drinks containers. Of course, the rocket starts vibrating as it's lit, it falls over, and then you've got a projectile going towards you. So if your rockets are going to go in anything, I'm going to show you in a second how to put those correctly into the tube that comes with the rocket to fire. Again, due to YouTube and to people showing off on the internet, we do get problems with people holding fireworks, especially rockets, and this can cause some really serious eye injuries. So you're going to see a film now about how those eye injuries can affect you.
When I was 14, all I could think about was getting girls to notice me. Now, they all do.
Okay, we're all big kids at heart and we all still love a sparkler, don't we? So again, a few just safety tips for you. I even have a sparkler when I give one to the children. So again, bottom part of the sparkler is not going to get too hot. Best if you've got a glove to stick one on, and that means that the bottom part of the sparkler is not going to get too hot. Obviously the top part can burn up to 2,000 degrees, so it does get very warm. A lot of the problems we get with sparklers are eye injuries caused by people swinging the sparkler around in the air. Again, it might seem quite innocuous. We do give them to primary school children over the age of 5, but it's still something that you need to bear in mind when you light it. Okay, arm's length away from your body. If you're at a party and you've got fancy dress on, probably best you don't have one because it's flammable. And then usually you're going to light your sparkler from another sparkler. So if someone comes in with a sparkler, you hold that against that sparkler, and that just gives you a chance to light your sparkler. Again, what we like to do with them, don't we like to swing them about, light them, make some shapes. But again, you've got a metal stick, aren't you, and you're throwing that around. So just be a little bit wary of that. After maybe 20 or 30 seconds, the sparkler will burn down. It's burning very, very hot. So we're going to try and keep that, as I say, arm's length away from the body. Another big problem we have is if these are finished, they get dropped on the floor. Because they're still alight, small children especially, they love to pick them up. And I went to a wedding recently where they had some sparklers for some photographs. The adults had finished with them, dropped it on the floor, a little child came, picked it up and burnt her hand. Okay, so it does happen even with adults or older children using them. When you finish with the sparkler, please just put it into a bucket of water, and that will take the heat away from that metal tube, and that's going to be hissing and spitting at you when you put that in a bucket of water. So, as I say, even though it's sort of deemed to be a child's one, we still like them as adults. So again, that's going to finish now, and when we finish with that, we get our bucket of water that we've got to hand, and we put that in there. Makes a nice hissing noise, doesn't it, as it takes away the heat from the sparkler. So if your family are going to have some fireworks at home, as I mentioned about the rockets earlier, if you get a box of fireworks, probably come with a rocket tube that looks a little bit like this, and you will need a bucket of sand. You'll also need, your adults will need a pair of glasses and a pair of gloves. So all the fireworks need to be buried properly into the sand. So we're going to put that tube in there, and we're going to put our glasses on just to protect our eyes, and we're also going to put our set of gloves on. Ask your adults if you are having a firework party at home, what's this firework going to do? If they say, well, I don't know, so we'll read the instructions, because on there it says exactly what you're meant to do with that firework. We're not going to go back to any fireworks that haven't gone off, so if it doesn't go off, then your adults will need to leave that. We've got a bucket of water here as well, so when the fireworks finish, we're going to put that in a bucket of water. Now I know it's a nice bright sunny day today, so you're not going to get the full effect of the firework, but it's just to show you the best way to do things. So we're going to put the rocket on the tube, in the thing, we're going to make sure that it's pointing up out of the way. We're going to take our taper, and most of your fireworks will come with a taper, so we don't want to see matches and lighters being used. And we're going to light the fuse, and then we're going to stand well back, okay? Okay, so there's your rocket's gone off. Obviously with a rocket, your fireworks are going to go off into a different area, so you haven't got to place that in your bucket of water. But if you're going to take perhaps a bigger firework, some of these small block fireworks will have written on them the instructions. So again, if you're helping your adult, have a word with them about that. For outdoor use only, avoid overhead obstructions, do not fire near buildings, not flammable, put in a non-flammable material, e.g. sand. So we're going to use sand for this one, and we're going to bury that in the sand. And this is a 15-shot cake, so we know it's going to be 15 shots, so you can count those as well for your adults to help them out, and then we know that one's going to be finished. So again, with your taper, your adults are going to light that firework, and then you're going to stand well back. Okay, so we've counted those all out, the tubes, 15 shots come out of there, so I can see that the case is empty. So with your adults, with the empty cases, we're going to place that into our bucket of water, and that can be disposed of at a later date. And the last firework I'd like to talk about is called a Catherine wheel. We've all seen these. They get banged in usually by an adult into a wooden post, and they spin round and cause a nice circular motion. Come with a nail usually attached to the Catherine wheel. We do get a lot of problems with these where people attach them to sheds or fences, because quite often they'll get stuck, and then you get a torrent of flame coming out of there, which can cause us problems. So again, keep an eye on your adults for us, please. If they're going to use a Catherine wheel, let's get a post banged in the ground away from any flammable material. Get this preloaded on there, and then they can set fire to it. It's going to be nice and safe away from any other problems. Now, I want you to enjoy your Halloween and bonfire celebrations, but I want you to do it safely and within the law. So just remember some of the things that we've spoken about today, and hopefully you'll enjoy your Halloween and bonfire parties this year. This is Steve Parker from Essex Fire and Rescue Service and Essex Police, wishing you a really happy Halloween and bonfire night.